Welcome to another one of my videos, Apex Web Services, building blocks for web wizards. There are many situations where you have an external process that needs to reach into Salesforce to either get data or write data. In many situations, the standard REST API is just fine for that. But there are cases where you need to build your own custom web service wrappers to wrapper any logic. And I'm going to walk you through a series of steps building you up for standard queries all the way up to updates. We're going to be walking through 5 examples of custom web services. Number 1, we're going to walk you through a get using a standard S-object list. 2, we're going to then wrapper this with a JSON response. 3, we're going to add in parameters. And 4, we're going to switch and show you using a post statement for like an insert. And then 5, we're going to show you how to return an error message. Here is some code I wrote for a standard web service wrapper of we are doing the following. We are doing a get customer, and I want to show you key lines of code. 1, line 9, we're going to be doing a REST resource. And this is where we give Salesforce the URL of the custom URI that we are going to be calling. 2, we make sure that we use the HTTP GET, so we choose which verb we're using. And then 3, we need to make sure these classes are global. So I'm returning a list of standard account with a get customer with a simple query. Now, if you were doing just a simple query, you would not be needing this custom web service. But it's a great example. So this is custom WS1. We're going to go to Postman, and you'll notice that I have the URL for my domain, services, Apex REST, and custom WS1. And I'm going to query, and now you'll see I'm getting a list of records here. This is the standard Salesforce S-object JSON parsing. So that is these simple lines of code in action. Now, number 2, we're going to then use a response object so we can control what goes back to the client. So in number 2, what we're going to be doing is we have the same REST resource, we have the same get customer, but instead of returning a list of S-object, we're now returning a list of STA customer response. Let's take a look at an STA customer response. So what I'm going to have is we have a get customer response object, which has a very light Apex class that has a list of STA customer. And then we can look at STA customer, and it's a light representation of a customer with just the ID and the name. So going back to the web service, we're going to build the response object. We're going to execute the query on accounts, and then we're going to be creating a new customer, adding it to the customer list, and then returning it, which is going to do the default serialization. So now I'm going to hop over to Postman, calling number 2. So this is the Apex REST customer WS2. I hit send, and now you'll notice that it's returning the data in a very different format than 1. 1 was returned by the standard Salesforce JSON format. 2 is a JSON format that I can control very carefully. So this could be a contract that I could build with my external team, and I can make this an API contract definition for my response. And so you'll see it's returning the data. So that's straightforward for number 2. Now, in number 3, we may not want a single customer. So we need to pass in a parameter. So what I'm going to show you is we're going to go to 3, and we're going to take the same line of code. However, we're going to have a new method 3. We're going to then read the REST context, this params, which gives me a map. And then I'm going to pass in the customer ID, which is the name of the parameter that I'm looking for. And then I'm going to put a where clause on my sockle. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go back into my org. We're going to pick, let's assume, global media. I'm going to grab its ID. And I can go into Postman and go to step 3, and you'll see I have the custom WS3 with the different customer ID. And I'm going to paste in a different ID, hit send, and now I'm getting global media. So this is how you're able to pass in a parameter. We are right here on 3, and I can do that by reading the parameter right there. Now there are times where you need to write data through a post statement. In this case, we're going to do create customer. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to number 4, and we're going to look at this. So what's different is we're now using a post method. So this is sending data in. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to create the response, which is going to be a create customer response, which is just going to have a status and a list of error message if there are any. But we're also going to be passing in a response object. So it's we're going to have a request object coming in where we're going to receive a customer. And as we saw before, a customer can have a name. So we're going to have a customer coming in. This is a really powerful statement where we're using the standard JSON serializer to serialize the request to a particular class. So if I go back to class number 4, this one line of code is 1, I'm getting the payload from the REST context. 2, this one line of code is parsing it. Then I'm going to create a new account, do an insert, return success. So let's go and take a look at this in action. So if I go to 4, create customer, and we're going to go into Mark's Mellows. And we're going to then hit send. So this is successful, no errors. And in fact, if I come to my account list, let's go to my account list, all accounts, you'll see Mark Mellows right there. So that was a successful insert using Postman. Now what we're going to do is we want to return an error. And I'm going to walk you through the class for number 5. So in 5, it's the same code as number 4, but just indicated as 5, creating the customer response, reading the context. In my same try catch, we just want to focus, I'm going to catch the exception. I'm going to then add the exception to a list of the error list, and I'm going to set the status code to 501. So I can set any number I want right here in this response code. So now what I'm going to do is go to step 5, and we're going to send in an empty name. So no name is being sent right here, and I'm going to hit send. So first, notice the 501 is up here. I can control that message. Second, you'll see the insert failed. And we can actually see this change by making this more of a generic 500, which is probably more appropriate. So I'm going to save. I'm going to deploy source to org. I'm going to switch back, and I'm going to send. And so now you'll see it's returning a 500 error, and it's got the try catch. So this is code. Now this code can continue to grow in robustness, but here we've got the try catch, catching it, and then returning the appropriate error code. So as we've gone through, we have the get returning an standard S object list, the get with a response, the get with a parameter, moving into the post verb with the request and the response as JSON. We then have the post with an error. So those are the basic building blocks for having a custom Apex web service, starting with a simple get and moving up in complexity. In future videos, we'll be talking about more intricacies and things you can do with those. Thank you very much. Stay wired for more fun and knowledge-packed adventures, and we'll see you soon.